On camera, what are you doing on it? It's Matzah Shabbos.
What are you asking, Matthew?
What? So the Aaron Kaplan is not usually on Matzah Shabbos. He usually does it before. I guess he's not hearing me. Okay, we're waiting for
Where are we starting
else?
from today? Where are we starting from?
Bottom of Chaf Zayin Aveiros, right? That's what we left, like a few lines up.
I think so. Just my marker got moved. My Gemara fell over Shabbos. I wanted to make sure.
Lana, you could say that you use your Gemara. You don't have to say it fell.
I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I heard you had an exciting Shacharis. Anything happened with Shacharis?
No, he just gave a schmooze about Hashivas of dominating. I don't know exactly.
I sure heard you don't treat them like elementary.
I'm telling you, the show must go on. That's all I can say. The show must go on.
Okay, listen. I went with your brother today.
That's right. Showed solidarity.
Yaakov, where are you? The classroom somewhere?
Shayashim classroom upstairs. I'm supposed to, whoever's by Obus Abanim is supposed to come up, but I guess they're not here, so we're not waiting for that.
I'm here, but I'm too lazy to go up a flight of stairs.
I hear that. It's all right. I did Obus Abanim with nephew. That's why parents can sit and be on the phone. You hear me now, or am I frozen?
No, we hear you.
I hear.
Loud and clear.
Okay, so ready? So we're 6 lines up from the bottom. Yeah, so if you there's a lot of halacha l'maisa in it doesn't come up that often, but it's still halacha l'maisa in tonight's stuff. So if you blow a shofar into the bar or into a hole or anything like that, so the Mishnah says that if you hear the actual sound of the shofar, you're fine. If you only hear the echo, then you're not good. So that's only talking about the people that are standing by the edge of the bar. But the ones that are standing inside the bar, they're yotzi. Because when you're inside the bar, you're going to hear the actual shofar. You're not going to hear the echo. When you're outside the bar, you're going to hear the echo. We're not inside. It says that you're yotzi, but right again, but one Mishnah says yotzi, one says not. It must be like Rav Huna. That one Mishnah that says you yotzi is talking about where you're in the bar, and the one that says you're not yotzi when you're out of the bar. Some say the same Gemara, but they ask it as a stira. Or into a box, you're not yotzi. But Tanya yotzi. But we learn the advice we are yotzi. One is talking about for those that are on the edge of the bar, and one is talking about those that are in the bar. Okay, so that's what the Gemara comes out, that if you're inside the bar, you're able to hear. Right? Oh, we got one customer. Yeah. So Omar Rabba. We're on Chav Chesed. Just turn the Omar Rabba. Shma Mina. I'm saying Shama Mitzvos here. The bar or Mitzvos Pia Asfasa bar yotzi. So if somebody listens to part of the tekiya in the bar and part of the tekiya on the edge of the bar, so he's yotzi. Right? Meaning the guy moves himself out of the bar. Right? The Gemara is going to change the pshat later. Right? What Rashi says right now we're talking about is that he's on the edge of the bar and the person blowing the shofar is in the bar and then he goes out of the bar. So halfway, meaning he's walking around while he's blowing the shofar. Yeah, so then you're yotzi. So we heard one half and half. Mitzvos tekiyos koydem sheyala amud shachar, and mitzvos tekiyos la'achar sheyala amud shachar lo yotzi. Right? If you heard part of the tekiyah before amud shachar, right? We know everything is done before nets, but lamaisa b'diavad, not b'diavad. L'chatchila, the day starts from amud shachar, which is dawn. We're machmer for nets, right? But bottom line is me'ikar adin, you're going to be yotzi after amud shachar. Well, let's say the guy started blowing the shofar 3 seconds before amud shachar, and then the shofar continues 3 seconds after amud shachar. So now you only heard half the tekiyah in the proper time. So you lo yotzi, you're not yotzi. So amalei abai ma'ishna haslam doing a kula tekiyah b'chiyuva. The leka, what's the difference over there? That you need the whole tekiyah in a chiyuv and you don't have it, meaning by before alois and after alois, you don't have the entire tekiyah in the kosher time, so you're not yotzi. Achanami being a kula tekiyah b'chiyuva v'leka. So too here by the bar, you should need the whole thing you should hear the whole tekiyah in the chiyuv, and you don't have that. So when he starts blowing the shofar before alois hashachar, he's blowing the shofar at night. So then that's see your face right there.
I went to your house, your mother's house first.
Are you serious? Yeah, Yeshua March just showed up live and in person. So again, there when you started blowing the shofar before alois hashachar, that wasn't this man chiyuv at all. When you blow in the bar, for those that are standing in the bar, there is a chiyuv for them. So it's not like you're blowing the shofar in some place that's puzzle. Right? Lamaisa, you're blowing it in a kosher place. It's just maybe someone's hearing the echo. So even if the guy is moving, then it's going to be okay, because the bottom line is the shofar was blown someplace kosher, but half the shofar was blown before the zman, then that's a problem, because it wasn't even in the proper time. Yes, am I being heard? Yeah, okay. Keep freezing.
Sounds good.
Okay. Lamemra, I'm just
Where
gonna
are we
assume
up
I'm
to?
going unless somebody texts me. I'm assuming that I'm okay.
Where
What are you saying?
are we?
We are now on Chaf Ches Amud Aleph, about 10 lines down. Yeah. Fine. So the Maimer, the Sava Rabba, Shama Saif Tekiyah Beloy Tekiyas Tekiyah Yotza. So can you say that Rabba is saying that you can hear the end of the Tekiyah? We had this yesterday's daf also. If you hear the end of the tekiyah without the beginning of the tekiyah, without hearing the beginning of the tekiyah, you're yotza. If you just heard the beginning of the tekiyah without the end of the tekiyah, you're yotza. Right? Meaning, was the Gemara saying that you don't have to hear a full tekiyah? You don't have to hear the beginning of the end. You just have to hear part of it. Meaning, as long as there would be a shear of the tekiyah, you're going to be okay. You don't have to hear the beginning and the end. Yeah. So Shama Saif Tekiyah Beloy Tchilas Tekiyah Yotza. I'm sorry, I just went back. Again, remember the Sava Rabba Shama Saif Tekiyah Beloy Tchilas Tekiyah Yotza. Umamela Tchilas Tekiyah Beloy Saif Tekiyah Yotza. And the Mamela, if you only hear the beginning without the end, Yotza Tashma. So we hear from we learn in the Brisa. Talk about Rishayno Moshe Shnia Kishtayim. Right? We're talking about a shul that really wants to get out early. So you have the first set. You have every set of tekiyos, right? So you have tekiyah, shvarim, trua tekiyah, and then the tekiyah, shvarim, trua tekiyah. So instead of blowing a tekiyah at the end, meaning you have the tekiyah, shvarim, trua, and then a tekiyah. Then right after that, you have to blow another tekiyah. So the guy decides he's going to save time. That he just blows one long tekiyah, and that he's trying to get it to suffice for the first set and the second set. Right, so does that mean why can't it work for two? Meaning, if you don't have to hear the beginning and the end, so then why can't we split the tekiyos? So I'm going to answer that we don't do. We can't split a tekiyah that's one long tekiyah. Meaning, even though the Gemara is thinking right now, you don't have to hear the beginning of the tekiya or the end of the tekiya, but you can't take one long tekiya and split it. That much you're not allowed to do. Right? Okay, so Tashima tekela secha bar lesecha dus lesecha pitus im kol shofar shama yotzi im kol avara shama lo yotzi. Right? So if he's blowing into these holes and there's echoes, so if he hears the actual shofar is yotzi. If he hears the echo, he's not yotzi. Why isn't he yotzi with the beginning of the tekiya before the sound gets mixed in with the echo? Meaning before you hear the echo, you're gonna hear the initial blowing of the shofar. Then the echo will kick in, right? So why can't you say that as long as you heard the beginning of the call, then you're gonna be okay? So the Gemara answers an interesting case. Ki kama Rabba, and here's where the Gemara changes from what it thought before. Ki kama Rabba, it's talking about where he blew it and he's walking up himself. He himself is moving out of the bar. So that's when you would be okay with it, right? But if that meaning there's nobody else. Rashi says no matter when he's leaving the bar and there's nobody else there to be yotzi with him, right? So his beginning and his end of the tekiyos was kosher. So it's perfectly fine, right? But the other ones, and those that are outside the bar are also going to be okay. Yes, the Gemara says, so what's the chiddush? Why shouldn't you be yotzi if you hear the call of the shofar? So my answer is the same as in the mapik ratio. Sometimes he'll move out his head. Right? Vakati shofar bar in the bar, the shofar is still in the bar, become an arv call, and then the voice gets mixed in with the what do you call it? The echo. That we're not worried for that. I'm not exactly sure how that works. He puts his head out of the bar, but the shofar is still in the bar.
Shofar, you assume he's going upwards. Maybe the curve is downwards.
I mean, he's curving it down.
Curving down.
I don't know. It's weird.
It's normal when someone climbs up a ladder to have to face down to see where the rungs are.
He's like a
climbing
saxophone.
up, his head's down.
I don't. Like a saxophone. He's blowing the shofar like a saxophone. Okay, I hear maybe. Even though we said that we learned that it's supposed to be bent. It doesn't really say. We always assume bent up, but maybe you're bending it down. Okay, I hear maybe. Unless he's going out backwards, but that doesn't make sense. Even that's gonna make sense. His head is gonna be in. Right?
Upside down?
Upside
out of a board?
down, yeah. I don't know. Right? Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I don't. No, there's no pictures of this. There's no on camera. There's no picture of this in any of these apps or whatever. But a guy pulling himself out of the bar with it.
I actually got one, but I wasn't sure if it was real or not. It's like a Super Mario picture. Stand by, coming over.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll check it out. Okay. So.
We're doing it by Miriam. I just told Miriam we're doing it by Miriam.
It's coming right now. Coming over.
All right. We'll go vitamin while we'll sit. Okay. So Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Right. Rabbi Yehuda says b'shofar shal oila lo yiska, and the shofar shal orla. Let's see.
Okay.
Yeah, but I can't believe they posted that. That's crazy.
Words, we approve.
That's why I didn't send it right away.
My gosh.
What?
I'm not gonna. I can just guess whose dot this is coming from.
Well,
but what
you
is
want
that?
You want to turn off the recorder first? What do you want to do?
No, it's okay. We can just. I don't understand, but why does this help?
I'm not sure. That's why I didn't understand it.
His head. No, I'm saying, but his head is out of the
board.
His head is out of it.
Yes.
Unless the first case, it's considered still inside the bar. His head is. I don't know. I don't know. You know what? If I'm gonna have kashas, I'm gonna save them for the Gemara, not for the kashas on this.
I told you it was an interesting one.
Yeah. Okay. Does anybody not have access to what Aaron Kaplan said? That okay, you're not missing anything anyways, but okay. So Amar Rav Yehuda, fine, let's see right. So Amar Rav Yehuda, the shofar shall oila lo yiska. A shofar of a korban oila, you're not allowed to blow. Vim taka yotzi. But if you use the shofar, meaning you makdish the carbon, the animal for a carbon, for the carbon oila, and then before it died, you rip, and now you have it. So if you blew it, you shouldn't blow the shofar. If you did, then you yotzi. Shofar shlamim, but if it's a carbon shlamim lo yiska, you shouldn't blow the im taka lo yotzi. If you did blow, you're not yotzi. Now, there's a little bit of which one is a more chashuv a carbon. So the carbon oila is the more chashuv a carbon than the carbon shlamim. So how come the carbon oila you yotza, and the carbon shlamim you're not yotza? Meaning the carbon oila doesn't get eaten by the kehanim, and oila gets totally burned. A shlamim gets eaten by kehanim. So you would think maybe that should be more makel, you'd be yotza. So no, the reason is my time. Why my time? Well, what's the reason for this? Oila bas me'ila. And oila you're going to be over on me'ila. Me'ila is using something of hektish b'shoigig, but you have to pay it back, right? Plus a fifth. So since you could be over on me'ila, kivan demalba, since you were over on me'ila, nafkale l'chulin, it goes out to chulin, right? And since it goes out to chulin, then it becomes yours. You're allowed to be yotzi. Shlamim, the la b'nei me'ila, no, but a shlamim is not b'nei me'ila. Isurahu the rachibahu the loy lafki l'chulin. It's still aser. So since it's still aser, it doesn't go out to chulin, right? So again, an oila, you're over on me'ila. When you're over on me'ila, the bonus is that it drops out from hektish. You were over on an isim, but it drops out of hektish. So now when you blow it, you're not blowing something of hektish, and it's mutter. Shlamim, there is no me'ila. So basically, you were blowing the shofar with something of hektish. And then, of course, so Master Rabba, Amos Mall, Rabba asked the Kasha, when is the me'ila? Meaning it only when me'ila is when you use it. When do you ever on me'ila? When you use the thing of hektish. When did you use it? When you blew it. But you blew it the second you started blowing it. It still was the me'ila didn't kick in until after you blow, right? So when you're actual blowing, you were still part of hektish. So why you yotzi, right? So that's the kasha. So Rabba said different shot. He changes both of them. You're not yotzi, not the oil, not the shlamim. And then he changed his mind and he said, with both of them, you are yotzi. Why? Because of the famous rule of mitzvos lav lahenes midli. You're not allowed to get hana from hektish, but mitzvos is not considered hana. So there's no physical hana, physical, spiritual, whatever. There's no hana from it. Since there's no hana from it.
The blowing's not a mitzvah.
What are you saying?
The blowing is not a mitzvah. The shmi is a mitzvah. The blowing's not a mitzvah.
Okay, but the blowing is what you're getting the hana, no?
Very choppy at this end, Sri Yaakov.
Okay, even if it's the hearing, right? No, somebody is saying something. We all freeze. No, not service. Are we frozen now?
A little.
He might
not
be doing
a little.
He might be doing me'ila because he blew on something of hektish, but the mitzvah is when I hear what he blew, not him blowing.
Is that the mitzvah is not even the blowing itself is what the hana is causing the hana.
It's causing it, but it's not a mitzvah.
It's not the blowing. Well, how do you hear the?
I don't. That's not my problem. I don't know. I don't know.
I hear. I don't know. I would think that it's a problem. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I don't know. You're saying you want to listen to it on the internet instead, right? That's taka shaila. right? If the shofar in El is only there to remind you of Rosh Hashanah, so if you have no shofar, should you play it on YouTube? The minion doesn't have a guy that knows how to blow the shofar. Should you play it on YouTube? All it is a
Well,
reminder.
the only thing that knows to blow a shofar is a chipmunk. Should you use a chipmunk to blow the shofar?
Jacob, Abe saw you could be yotzi on Zoom.
Or Zoom too, yeah, but only in El, not Rosh Hashanah.
I know not Rosh Hashanah, I'm saying, but this time they could be yotzi.
Not a mitzvah, right? It's just okay. I don't know.
Be yotzi on Zoom also, I would say.
Yeah, I know Hanami. But there's a fascinating Rashi here. Where's the Rashi? Where'd it go?
Maybe for Elo, we adjust Sulitz's horn.
Sulitz's horn could really, yeah. Rashi says, if you look at Lav Lehendes Nitnu, which is a few lines up in the Gemara, Rashi says, this that it's the Klal Yisrael is doing mitzvahs, it's not a hana for them. It's put as a yoke around their neck. Mitzvahs are a yoke around our neck. Okay, so anytime you get somebody, an inspirational speaker that wants to say Gishmak, a mitzvah, I say this Rashi. Mitzvahs is to be a yoke on our necks. It's mamish like it's a little bit more than halfway down in the Rashis. Yeah.
It's a great way to keep people on the derech also.
I know. It's not, yes, this is not a kiruv. Don't underline this. Keep it, underline it.
Yeshua Marchuk, it's not a good idea to speak about this at the NCSY convention.
Yeah, I'm loving it. Yeah, this is what Aaron Horowitz would speak about.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's if I showed up more than once in 8 days.
Oh, he came back.
I knew I was going to get hot.
Yeah.
I'm Alam in a tabla, man.
Yeah. Anyways, he's got an neshama yisera here, he's not rid of neshama yisera. So, anyways, okay. So it's all on the neck. Fine. So I'm Rav Yehuda, violating Gemara. But shofar shel avodah zarah liyiska. If the shofar is from avodah zarah, you shouldn't blow. Vim taka you yotza. But shofar shel nidachas. But if it's a shofar of nidachas, which is a city that did avodah zarah, and you destroy the city, lo yitka, you shouldn't blow. Vim taka lo yotza. And if you blew, you're not yotza. My timer, nidachas ksuse michta shiure. Nidachas, what we call this ksuse michta shiure. Since it's going to be destroyed, so we look at it like it's ground up and destroyed already. So since it's ground up and destroyed, so therefore it's as if it doesn't exist right now. It doesn't have a shear. Meaning we said yesterday or 2 days ago that the shofar has a certain amount that has to stick out. The shofar has to stick out from the hands and you have to be able to see it. Since this shofar is going to be destroyed, it's looked at like it doesn't exist. So it doesn't have a shear shofar. Right? Yeah. And again, so how come a shofar of avodah zarah? Why that's iser hana? Avodah zarah is iser hana. So again, Rashi says mitzvahs lav lehenes nidlu. Right, so mitzvahs lav lehenes nidlu. But iranidachas, since it's going to be burned, we look at it like it's no longer in existence right now, even though right now it really is in existence. Fine. So Amud hana mechaveiro. Somebody who makes a neder that he's not going to benefit from his friend, mutar l'skoyala, tekiyos shel mitzvah, right? He is allowed to blow, meaning the friend that he said he's not going to get hana from is allowed to blow him tekiyos shel mitzvah, right? Because again, it's all mitzvahs lav lehendes nidlu. So tosif goes through why we need so many different cases to explain what all these different mitzvahs lav lehendes nidlu. Amud hana is shofar. Somebody says, I'm not going to get hana from a shofar, but you're allowed to blow a tekiyos shel mitzvah, right? And there's an interesting shaila in the poskim. So that works for the first 30, right? Maybe for the first 60, because it's a shaila, right? We said you have to hear some before Shemona Esrei, one during Shemona Esrei. But what about the extra 40 that are there for whatever Kabbalistic reasons, right? So are those also considered shel mitzvah or maybe not? Yeah, fine. Okay. V'amar Rava. I actually had that similar shaila today. because we had wine on the table, so we had to bench. We had a mini for the Suda, and we had wine on the table, so we needed to bench with wine. And it was only closed wine, so we got an open wine that was open in the kitchen. So we learned this I think we learned it in the daf a week or two ago, that if it's gilui, maybe it's more than a week or two ago, right? We don't hold of gilui nowadays, meaning wine and water. If you leave it open, me'ikar adin nowadays is not a problem. We're not worried about snakes. But it says for koshel mitzvah that you shouldn't use it for. So if you leave a wine unopened, you should not use it for a mitzvah, even if it was just left unattended for 10 seconds. Having nothing to do with goyim, we're worried about snakes, right? So then I used a different wine. I had a shear of wine in the cup. I just needed to fill the whole kais. Was I able to use this wine as an addition? Meaning it wasn't really mitzvah. You're not supposed to use wine that had gilui because it's a bizayon for the mitzvah, which is actually a pasuk in this week's Torah. Now that I'm mentioning it. No, fridge is considered as covered.
Snake can't get into the fridge.
Right.
Yeah. No, but so matter we left it out in the kitchen and everybody was in the dining room.
Right.
So it was left by itself. So for a mitzvah, you're not supposed to do it. So I wasn't really using for a mitzvah because I had a shear of 3.5, 4 ounces of other wine. But the kais was like a 6 ounce wine. So I was wondering if those 2 other ounces is considered a mitzvah or not. It's the same thing here. We're saying you're allowed to get hana from the actual shofar, even you made a neder against it, because it's a mitzvah. Mitzvah, but the extra 40 is not really a mitzvah. I don't know what it is, but it's not a mitzvah. Right? It's the shla. The shla says to do it. Okay, fine. Another case. So somebody who made hana, made a neder not to get hana from his friend, that friend can sprinkle the mechatas during the rainy season on him. Meaning mechatas, if he becomes tameh, so they need to sprinkle the ashes together with the water on the person to be matarim, right on the 3rd and 7th day of the 7 days from after Tumas Mace. So you could do it during the rainy season, not in the rain and the summer season. Why? Because in the summer, the guy's going to get a geschmack by being sprinkled with water. So even though that's mitzvahs lav lahanis niddu, and this thing is a mitzvah, but he's going to get some hana, right? Physical. But in the winter, he's cold. There's no relief. So therefore, there's
Becoming
no
tar is not a hana.
The what?
Becoming tar.
Becoming tar.
Is
I
not
guess
a hana.
you're right. So the chiddush would be anachanami. It's a good kasha, right? But the chiddush would be that becoming tar is still considered alt mitzvah. It's not, even though there is a lot of benefit there from becoming tar, but it's still a mitzvah. Yeah. So that would be the chiddush of that. Amud Mayan, somebody made a hana. What?
According to that Rashi, now the guy never could eat one of Eretz's $100 roast that he slaved for 4 hours, but because Rashi says it's a torture to eat that roast that we're having for a siyum,
Oh, because it's a mitzvah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I hear. No, I think Rashi means the torture is listening to the siyum, not the eating of the food. But okay. So then the next case, somebody makes a neder from getting hana from a stream, toivel by tefillah shel mitzvah. He could be toivel in it a tefillas mitzvah during the rainy season because he's not getting any physical hana because it's freezing. But not in the summer season. If they forced him to eat matza on Pesach, right, then he's yotzi. Meaning they forced him and he didn't do it voluntarily. Yeah? Meaning first night matzah, you got to eat it kavana. So the guy, he was forced into eating that matzah. So what's the din? So we're saying that it's yotzi. So now the Gemara asks, kafu man, who forced him? Ilem a kafu shade, for all the therapists out there, this is for them. Right? If we say that a shade forced him to eat it, however that works, right? So Vatani will learn the Brisa, itim cholim, itim shaita. This is another case of confusion. What would you think the taich is of cholim? Right? If sometimes you would think that it's sick, but if you look at that little test, cholim here means healthy. Right? If Gemara is not hard enough to understand, how about this? Right? So itim cholim. If sometimes he's healthy, itim shaita. Sometimes he's a shaita, meaning he's got some sort of what would we call it, schizophrenia or whatever, bipolar, schizophrenia, something like that. He's got his times that he's in and times that he's out, right? So again, cholim here doesn't mean sick. Cholim here means he's actually healthy. So sometimes he's healthy, sometimes he's a shaita. So kishu cholim, when he's healthy, he has the din of a healthy person. Then he's a shaita. So, meaning, and if a shade forced him to eat the matza, and he says, "Oh, the reason why I ate matza is not because of Pesach, because this shade forced me to eat matza," that means he's potter, because he's a shaita. If he's a shaita, so then when his mind clears, then he should be chayiv again, right? Whoever thinks Gemara is not learned this should learn this Gemara, right? Again, if he's a chayla and the shade forced him to eat the matzah, that means he wasn't healthy. That means he's really potter. He's a shaita then. Right? We're saying that when he's acting crazy, so he's a shaita. When he's healthy, he's not a shaita. So when he ate the matzah, he was a shaita. So when his mind clears up, he didn't eat matzah because he was potter when he ate the matzah. So he's got to eat the matzah again. Right? So how come the Gemara is saying that? So if it can't be talking about a shade, because if a shade forced him, then he's not yotzi. So Rav Ashi shekafu parsiim. The goyim forced him. The parsiim forced him to eat it. Yeah. So that's what it means. So then he would be yotzi. Because why? Even though there was no kavana, because you're going to have to say that mitzvahs don't need kavana. That's at least what the Gemara is thinking right now. He ate the matzah because he was forced into it by the goyim, and he's still yotzi. So Rav Ashi shekafu parsiim. Some parsiim forced him. So what it's going to tell you that let's say a guy is blowing a shofar for music purposes. Right? He's not blowing in order to be yotzi tekiyos shofar. He's blowing to make sound. Then he comes out. Hey, by the way, it's Rosh Hashanah. Maybe you're yotzi. In this case, if you were forced to eat matza without kavana, why should it be any different than eating than blowing the shofar without kavana being yotzi? So Gemara answers, no matter the same. There, the Torah says, eat matzah, and you ate matzah. Who cares how you ate it? The bottom line is the matzah went down your throat. Aval hacha, zichrain trua said. It says it should be a zikaron for the trua. Bahai misasik ba'amahu. He's a misasik, meaning all he's doing is blowing the shofar to play music.
That's not the mitzvah. The mitzvah is to hear it.
Well, we're talking about if you're blowing it for yourself, I'm assuming that's for himself. He's just stam misasik. Kamash Malon, that he would still be yotzi. So that's the chiddush of shofar, right? Because mitzvahs don't need kavana. Alma. So the Gemara says, second line down on the base, Kasava Rava mitzvahs ain't tzrichas kavana. Rava must hold that mitzvahs don't need kavana, which is a great thing for us, right? So no comment on that after that, right? At least for me. Shouldn't speak for the oil, but for me. Yeah. So Eisvei, Hayakara B'Torah. He was reading in the Torah Vigiyas Mana Mikra, right? This case in right in brachas, in Gemara and brachas, right? He's reading in the Torah, and it came time to read Shema. Meaning he was reading Shema as part of his learning. He was reading Shema, and then he realized, hey, it was man kriya Shema. So if he had kavana, these yotzi and lav la yotzi, my lav kiven libay latzes. What does it mean? He had to have kavana to be yotzi. So you see that mitzvahs do need kavana. So we say lai likrais. He had kavana to read it. So when I ask likrais hakakari, you mean that he had to have in mind to read it. We said he's reading it. Well, our answer is b'kaira lahagia. No, he wasn't really reading it. He was writing a sefer Torah, or he was checking over a sefer Torah. So he was reading it as long as he was reading it as he went along, checking the sefer Torah. So sometimes when you're reading along for the sefer Torah, you might not be sure to pronounce it exactly correct. You're just making sure that you're able to keep track of the words because you want to make sure the sefer Torah is kosher. So if you didn't, so Gemara is saying, if you had kavana to make sure the words were enunciated properly, then you're yotzi. But not that you have to have kavana that you're yotzi for Shema. Meaning, the Gemara is saying that you could have been reading it and you made sure to read it clearly, then you would yotzi, even if you didn't have in mind to be yotzi Shema, as long as you made sure to read it properly. Fine. So Tashma ha'ya'aver achore beis hakneses. If somebody's walking past the shul, I show you basis. Some of the basic Knesset or his house is close to basic Knesset. B'shama call shofar. I call Megillah, and he heard the voice of the shofar or Megillah. Im kivan liba yotzi. Im lav la yotzi. My love, im kivan liba lotzes. Doesn't mean you had kavana to be yotzi. Why wouldn't you be yotzi? If mitzvahs don't need kavana, you're walking by the shul, you hear the shofar, you should be yotzi even if you didn't have kavana. So we say like the shmaya. It means you have to have kavana to hear it. The shmaya v'hashama. What do you mean if he had kavana to hear it? We said he heard it. Savar chamor ba'almahu. No. He thinks that he was hearing a donkey. He didn't think he was hearing a shofar. So if he concentrated to see that it was a shofar that he was listening to, then he's going to be yotzi, even if he didn't have in mind to be yotzi the mitzvah. Right? So then let's say the person listening, right, and this applies really to anything, but we're talking about shofar, but it's kiddush too. And the person making it did not have kavana for you. Or the person blowing the shofar had kavana to be mitzi, but the one listening did not have kavana lo yotzi. You're not yotzi until the person listening and the person making people listen is yotzi. Bishlam and had in mind. So Bishlam and mashmiya v'lo nischav shemeya, because this that you have kavana that the person blowing it and the person hearing did not have kavana kasavar chamor ba'almahu, because the listener, the one listening, might have thought that it was a chamor, so therefore he may not be yotzi. But if the shemeya has kavana and the mashmiya didn't, how do you find this case? Lav tekiyos l'shir, isn't it talking about where he's tekiyos l'shir? And we're going to say that you're not yotzi. So it's a kasha on the original thing that if you're blowing, you would be yotzi. So the Gemara says, Dilma tekar minbach nevuchi. No, but maybe he wasn't making songs with the shofar. He was making barking, right? So since he was making barking, then there was no kavana really to blow, but it came out that it worked. So the way Rashi says it, he wasn't blowing a shear tekiya. He didn't blow a shear tekiya. Yeah. So then Tosif says, well, if he didn't blow a shear tekiya, so then so then how can you be yotzi even if you have kavana? You didn't blow a shear tekiya, right? So Tosif learns a pshat is that he didn't have kavana to blow a shear, but it ended up being a shear. So that's more of a chiddush. Okay, so either way, so then Amar le'Abai Lamiyata Yoshem b'Shmini b'Sukkah Yilka. If that's the case, somebody who sleeps on the 8th day in the sukkah should get malchus, right? Meaning, if you hold mitzvahs like don't need kavana, so when you sleep in the sukkah on the 8th day, why are you not over on Baal tosif? Right, you should be over on Baal tosif. Right, we say because when you sleep in the sukkah, you have in mind not to be yotzi, the mitzvah of sukkah. Good, but if you don't need to have kavana, so then you're automatically yotzi. So then you should be over on Baal tosif. Right, so Amalai Shan Eyomer mitzvahs eina over alein ela bizmanu. No, to be over on Baal tosif can only be during the time frame of the mitzvah. Right, so since this is added a time frame of the mitzvah, because it's on the 8th day, it's no longer in the 7th day. So therefore, there's no Baal tosif. Right, we'll get a little clearer as the Gemara goes by. So matza Rav, meaning, so there's no way to be over on Baal tosif according to this by sitting in the sukkah for an extra day. Meaning the way you would be over on Baal tosif is, let's say instead of wearing one pair of tefillin, you wear 2 pairs. Well, maybe that wasn't work either. But let's say instead of having 4 parshias, you put in 5 parshias. So that's during the zman of the tefillin. But when you do the mitzvah, extra mitzvah after the zman tefillin, then it's not Baal tosif. So Masar Rasham Bar Abba, Minayin l'kayin she'olel duchen. How do we know that a kohen that goes up to duchen shelo yomer hayil v'nitna li Torah rishus levarach Yisrael, since the Torah gave me the kohen permission to bench Klal Yisrael, Aisif bracha achas mishali, I'll add my own bracha. Going Hashem elikei aveiseichem yosef aleichem. I'll add another bracha of Hashem that are the forefathers, the Hashem, the God of your forefathers, should add on to you. So it says, don't add on. But here, once you finish duchening, the mitzvah is over. So how can it be that you added on your own bracha and you're going to be and you're going to be over on Baal tosif, the mitzvah is over, right? So we said the last time, it's somewhere where you added a bracha before you finished the duchening, meaning after saying Yivarech Hashem Yishmerecha, that's when you added a bracha. So when it says, well, it can't be that it was before, but Tanya see him. It's somewhere it says once you finished saying bracha achas. So we see no, it means when you finished one bracha. So what else? Tanya see him kol bracha. It says when you finished all the brachas, you added it on. So when I answer Shani Hacha, Kivan Dilam Isrami Letzibura Achnina Hadam Baruch Kula Yoima Zmanehu. So since if another tzibur comes and says they need a kohen to do duchening again, so then the kohen can go duchen. So that means the entire day is a mitzvah for him. So since the entire day is a mitzvah for him, so that's still considered during this man of the mitzvah, and he could be over on Baal tosif by adding it on. So the Gemara says, "We're not tamra." How do we know that that's still considered in this man of the mitzvah? That's so we know that all korbanos need to have the blood sprinkled on the mizbeach. Right, so some of them need to be just sprinkled in the corner or smeared on the mizbeach. So some need it on one corner and some need it on four corners. So let's say blood from one carbon got mixed in with another carbon. So that's fairly simple. Two different korbanos bloods got mixed in, but they both only need one placing on the mizbeach. So you just put one matan and then it's fine. Matan dalit, and let's say it's a type of korban that needs to put on four corners. So you nasnu matan dalit, then you put it with four. But what happens when you have a matan dalit but matan achas? The blood of a korban that needs to be put on four corners of the mizbeach gets mixed in with the blood that needs to go on one corner. So now what do? Now you're really stuck. Because if you do four and it's really only supposed to be one, you're around Baal tosif. And if it's supposed to be four and you only do, no, what I was just saying, which case did I say? If it's one and you do four, you're around Baal tosif. If it's four and you only do one, you're around Baal tigra. You did less. So which one is it? So Rabbi Eliezer, you're not matan dalit. Rabbi Eliezer says you do four. If you're sure, you're not matan achas, you do one. So Amar Rabbi Eliezer, Hariyu over Baal tigra. According to you, you might be over on Baal tigra because you're going to do less. So Amar Rabbi Yeshua, Hariyu over on Baal tosif. What do you mean? But you're going to be over on Baal tosif. Meaning neither one has an easy way out here. Either you're over on doing too little or you're over on doing too much. So Amar Rabbi Eliezer, Lo never Baal tosif, ela geshu ba'atzmo. We only say Baal tosif when it's by itself. When it's mixed in with something else and you're doing it to make sure you yotzi, then that's not a problem. So Amar Rabbi Yeshua, Lo never Baal tigra, ela geshu ba'atzmo. You're going to say the same thing about Baal tigra, only when it's by itself, but not when it's mixed in. Right? When you don't put it on, meaning you only put it on one corner, you didn't put four. So yes, you might be over on Baal tigra, but you didn't do a matza to do that. But when you put four, when you're only supposed to put one, you're going to be over on Baal tosif, and you did a matza with your hands, right? So Rabbi Yeshua is saying the safer way to do it is do one matana, because good, you over on Baal tigra, you didn't do as many things, but you didn't do a matza isser. If you put four instead of one, you did a matza isser by putting the extra three. You did something wrong. You did a matza by doing extra. But if you were supposed to put four, you only did one. You're not doing a matza. Yes, you did something wrong by putting on three less places that you're supposed to put the blood, but you didn't do any sort of matza. So what's the proof here? Since you put a matana from a bechor, so now this man is over. So why should you be over on Baal tosif? This man of putting the blood on the mizbeach is already passed. But yet we still say you're over on Baal tosif. So why are you over on Baal tosif if the mitzvah is already over? So isn't it because we're going to say no, because another bechor might come along. And since another bechor comes along, you're going to have to sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach. So Mamela, we look at it as if the whole day is this man. So the same thing by duchening. Even though the kohen finishes duchening, When he adds on a bracha, he's going to be over because the whole day he could possibly duchen again. So the Gemara answer and said that was the Gemara's proof. So Gemara says, no, maybe Rabbi Shua holds that you can be over on Baal tosif even if it's not in its time. Yeah, and how do I know this? Anan haki kamrin. This is what he was saying because Rav Shimon bar Abba, my type of shamik masnis in the Moisei Brisa. Why did you leave the Mishnah, right? And ask from a Brisa? Why didn't he ask for a Mishnah? Now, Mishnah is always stronger than a Brisa, right? Because meaning he was asking him a kasha from the duchening. Why didn't he ask him from the bechar, from putting the blood? Masnisa my time alone. Why didn't he ask from the Mishnah? Because since if he had another bechar by mazamine kule yomas manehu, so since he's going to need to sprinkle it to the whole day, it's considered its time. Since he might have another tzibur that needs a kohen, he's going to have to go back. So so the whole day is its man. So it must be that Yeshua holds that you can be over anyways.
Aren't these two different things? One is saying you're repeating the Berkas Kohanim, and one is you're adding an extra pasuk to it. It's not the same case.
What are you saying? You're saying that a duchening,
meaning a Kohen can duchen all day long because it's in the Zman, but that's not the case that they brought about tosif. You wanted to add an extra pasuk, or in the middle and someplace else. That's not part of the three psukim.
No, but we're saying right. But we're saying that that's still within the time frame that you can do duchening.
Right. But the question of the Gemara wasn't the question of the Gemara saying if a Kohen wants to add an extra pasuk to his duchening, whether or not he can do it. And the answer is, since he can duchen all day long, we allow him to duchen all day long. It doesn't answer the question whether or not he can add another pasuk.
No, he can't add another pasuk. We're saying we're definitely saying he cannot add another pasuk. What we're saying, the Gemara was only trying to prove here. The Gemara wanted to say that if you sit in the sukkah on the 8th day, you're not yotzi. You're not yotzi. Since you're not yotzi, you're not over Baal tosif. So the Gemara's kasha was, well, if you say mitzvahs don't need kavana, so even if you slept in the sukkah without kavana, but since you're yotzi without kavana, so now you're over on Baal tosif. You added on one day onto sukkahs. So what I'm saying, no, you can only be over on Baal tosif when it's within the time frame that the mitzvah is supposed to be done. And the 8th day is not within the time frame of the mitzvah being done because it's already gone. So they want to ask from duchening. Right? From duchening, it's within the time. The Gemara said, what do you mean duchening? When you finish duchening, you make the bracha. That's not in the time frame. Right? So the time frame is over. So since it's in the time frame, therefore it's how do you say it? It's Baal tosif. That's really what the Gemara is trying to get. It's not trying to say he can duchen all day. Fourth bracha after he's finished duchening, that's within the time frame. I hope I'm making sense. Does it make sense? No? Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe it's not a real question. That's why I don't understand your answer.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say. It's very kind of you. Okay, we'll go back to it. But I just have to hurry because I got to get on the next year at 9:30 and I got to get home. Okay, but Rav Shama bar Abba Hasam loy sagi de lo yov. Right, so Rav Shama, I was going to say no. Hasam loy sagi de lo yov. By the bechor sprinkling the blood, it's not enough that you're not going to give. Meaning you have to do it. Another animal comes along during the day and they want to put blood onto the mizbeach. You have to listen. So therefore, we're going to say that the whole day is considered within the time frame of the mitzvah, and you be over on Baal tosif. But if the kohen wants to duchen again, he can duchen again. But if he doesn't want to duchen again, he doesn't have to duchen again. So therefore, the time frame would be considered over, and therefore he wouldn't be over on Baal tosif. So therefore, he wants to bring a raya from the bechor and not from the kohen. From the duchening. So then Rabbi Amar Lotzeis loy boy kavana. He says a different yisayid. To be yotzi, you don't need kavana. Lavar, but to be over on an iser, that you need kavana. right? Meaning an isser needs kavana, mitzvah does not, right? So meaning the guy sitting and sleeping in the sukkah on the 8th day would need, in order for him to be over on Baal tosif, then he would have, he's doing an isser, so he'd have to have kavana to do the isser. That it would need. So where it says, Rabbi Yeshua, the laver kavana. Rabbi Yeshua holds you're going to be over and you don't need kavana. So how does that work? To be yotzi, you don't need kavana. Laver bismano kavana. To be over during its time, you don't need kavana. Meaning, you don't need kavana. If you put a 5th parsha in your tefillin, you don't need kavana, right? But shaloi bismano, but it's not in this man. By kavana, then you will need kavana. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to say the
The person is sitting in it's hot outside, and the person will just sitting in the sukkah for shade, not for the mitzvah. He's not. His kavana is not for the isser.
Right. So then you would be fine.
Then it'd be fine.
Correct. But if you would be doing an isser on the 7th, I don't know what isser would be. Let's say we take an extra esrog on the 7th day. So there, since it's in the zman, you would be over on Baal tosif, even if you didn't have kavanah to take it for a mitzvah, right? But on the 8th day, if you decided, then you would only be over if you had kavanah. Right? Like you're saying, same thing with this. Yeah, fine. Some of the Rav Zera l'shameh, Rav Zera told the shamish, "Ichaven v'tokali, have kavanah and blow for me." Alma kasav mashmiya by kavanah. You see that the one blowing it needs the kavana, right? Yeah. So, so what does this mean? So Rashi says he has to have kavana, that you have to have. He wanted the Baal Tekiyos to have in mind that he himself should be yotzi the mitzvah. Yeah. So then what it says, Meisvei hayaivra achar beis hakneses hayav beis. Some of them beis hakneses, same case as before. Somebody's walking behind the shul, or somebody is, or his house is close to the basic Knesset. Shama kol shofar or Megillah, and he hears the call of the shofar in the Megillah. Imkivan liba yotzi, vim lav lo yotzi. Techikivan liba my havi, right? Even if he has kavana, what's the din? What does that help? The guy was not having kavana for you, meaning if according to this case that we just said that he asked the Baal Tekiyos to specifically have him in mind. Right? So then why? How can you be walking by a shul and be yotzi? The guy in the shul has no idea. Meaning he has everybody in mind in the shul, but he doesn't know about you walking outside the shul. So going to answer.
Does he have someone in mind who comes late, who misses the first? Let's say misses the first blow.
I would think that they have them in mind. Yeah, I would think that he has them in mind. But the Gemara's answer answers your question. The shliach tzibur, he has his das on anybody, even the guy walking outside the shul. If there was a guy blowing in the shul for himself, afterwards, then like after shul, he's blowing for himself, and you happen to hear it, then maybe you wouldn't be yotzi. So Toshima, nischaven shemeya v'lo nischaven mashmiya. If the shemeya had kavana and the mashmiya did not have kavana, or the one blowing had kavana, the one hearing did not have kavana, lo yotzi is not yotzi. Until the shemeya and the mashmiya have lower, the one who's letting everybody hear is similar to the listener. The one listening is hearing for himself. So the one blowing is blowing for himself. The katani lo yotzi. We're saying that he's not the listener, the guy hearing it, that he's not going to be yotzi. So the Gemara answers Tanai. That's taka machlokas Tanai. The Tani shemeya la'atzmai, mashmiya lefi darka. The one listening is listening for himself. He has to have in mind to be yotzi. Mashmiya lefi darka, and the one making the blowing can blow it according to his derech, and that's fine. Meaning he can blow for himself. If other people happen to hear, they happen to hear. But that's only by shliach tzibur. But if it's a guy blowing privately, until they actually have to have kavana, right? Which is what Rav Zera was saying, that Rav Zera was holding that the person blowing has to have actual kavana for the person who's listening. Okay, but again, we're saying that that's only for private.
Frozen.
Anyone text him?
I did.
I think we were done anyway, no?
Yep.
It was my luck. I probably ruined it.
What'd you do?
I don't know. I just logged in. I was outside. Maybe that. I don't know. I'd like to blame myself. I'm a nice Jewish woman. My
Yeah, I
fault.
hear you.
He's not on anymore even.
All right, take it to Vach. I tell you this.
Either way, he gives the shear now in 10 minutes, so probably got to finish.
Right.
Mazel tov, marrying up grandson tomorrow.
Mazel tov.
Oh, mazel tov.
Enjoy.
Only Simchas.
Reb Rafe, mazel tov, mazel tov. Very nice.
Thank you, thank you.
Very nice. Simchas.
Amen.
Okay,
Where?
you're excused from the shir tomorrow. Okay, no problem.
I'll be dancing in Mitzvah Hashem.
Mitzvah
In
Shem.
Passaic.
Where?
I'm in Passaic.
You're
Very
upset. Very nice.
Cosmos here.
Enjoy.
Going back to Chicago Monday, flying back to New York Thursday.
All right.
Shabbos
Keep
Shalom.
Shabbos Shalom brachas.
Go for Simchas. Beautiful.
Amen, amen.
Carl,
See you guys.
bye-bye.
Lali. Get to Vach.